Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from Cybertron, I'll be your co-host, Trumborus Prime. Joining me as always, my co-host in disguise, John Paul Ellatron. How's it going, Mr. Ellatron?
David. I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
I'm okay. I got the rare groan out of you for terrible puns to start the show. You usually encourage or just snort. This, I got a rare groan. You know, like Trumborus Prime?
It was just the whole lead up. I think it's just there's so many things going on in this universe, this vast universe that we are going to talk about tonight. And Trumborus Prime, I only wish that character had actually shown up to be able to sort of sort some of this crap out.
I don't think they let him through Ellis Island. Sent him back.
Ellistron Island.
That's right, Ellistron Island. They sent him back.
Does he have a rubbing on the wall?
He might. He's probably just floating in the bay at this point. But
fair.
Actually, it's back to the podcast here. Transformers, which spoiler alert, that's what we're talking about. Transformers, surprisingly nimble underwater. Didn't sink like die-cast metal robots in the skies like you think they would.
They did not sink like several ton walking robot monsters.
No.
I was baffled by that.
Baffled by the physics, and it takes place here on Earth mostly. So maybe
I would assume Earth physics.
Sort of similar Earth physics.
Right.
Maybe they've got some weird sort of like crystalline, lightweight something that lets them float and swim / also survive falls from outer atmospheres of Earth, which is pretty good. That happens a lot in this episode.
I want to say, anytime you see a giant robot in water, like in an ocean, we're not talking about like a kiddie pool or a lake or a pond, like
where
in
I put
the
my
ocean.
Robots. Right.
Exactly. Like anytime you see a giant robot in the ocean and it's doing the breaststroke in order to come over and assist another robot that is literally sitting there saying, "Oh, the two things I don't like are water and fire," and you're like, "What is actually the fuck is actually going on right now? What the hell is going on?"
My favorite part, not to get too far ahead, my favorite part of that same scene is when the breaststroking. Is that right? That doesn't sound right.
That sounds
breaststroking.
It sounds correct.
Okay.
It is correct, but let's.
Well, we're getting into the Olympics here, so that's probably more accurate. Breaststroking robot from space comes swimming over to a human to assist the same thing, and these humans are just like, "Oh wow, you guys are pretty cool. Thanks for the help." No, not my first reaction.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Imagine the Statue of Liberty just gets off her pedestal and swims to shore to help you from drowning. Your first reaction is probably not going to be like, "I loved you in Ghostbusters 2."
You beat me to
like, "Fuck, you're probably gonna kill me," even if you don't mean.
What have I done, and why are you the one dispatched to send me to hell?
That's a hell of a way to go, to be honest with you. Right under that sandal.
Yeah.
Oof.
Hit you
She's
with
a
that torch.
harbor chick. Anyway, so we'll be talking Transformers tonight, and the reason we're talking Transformers, not just because it's one of the most classic cartoons in history, but there's actually a new animated Transformers series coming out. So by the time you guys are listening to this, if you're listening to it on the day that it releases, I believe it'll be the day after this, that Transformers Combiner Wars actually debuts. It's going to be an 8-episode animated series from Machinima and Hasbro. It's actually going to be a digital first series, and that means it's not going to be on YouTube or anywhere on Netflix. It's going to be on this mobile app called Go90, Go90. So definitely check that out. You can head to Collider.com for the trailer of Transformers Combiner Wars. We've also got the prequel episodes that focused on Optimus Prime, Windblade, and some of the other characters that you may or may not know, because this story actually takes place, I believe it's 40 years after the end of the major conflict that takes place between Autobots, Decepticons, Optimus Prime, and Megatron. So it's actually set a few decades later. So it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it.
In terms of Beast Wars, when does this take place?
When the hell does Beast Wars take place? Isn't it like an alternate? I thought it was completely alternate. Story, wasn't it?
Dave, I throw the question out to you. Is it?
I hope.
Is it? God, I hope so too.
There was one user review we came across tonight that was just like, Transformers Generation 1 is inferior to shows like Beast Wars, and that's where I was like, nope.
Get the fuck out of here.
Kid's done. Cut him off. kid's clearly drunk on motor oil.
Oh.
Beast Wars is pretty bad. This month, I think we're actually going to probably repost that review if you guys missed it, but we're going to have some other reviews and episodes on different Transformers series. So if you have any of your favorites that are out there, let us know. Now's a good time to let us know, and we may take a look at them. But for tonight, let's get into G1. So Ellis, take us back to the 80s. Where do we start with this thing?
All right, so the Transformers is the first animated television series in the franchise, which is based on the Hasbro toy line of Transformers. Itself is based upon the Diaclone and Microman toy line originally created by Japanese toy makers Takara. Written and recorded in America, the series was animated in Japan and South Korea. In Japan, the series was called Fight Super Robot Lifeform Transformers.
I think, man, everything should have a Japanese translation. Every title should be Japanese. Even if it's like 100% dyed in the wool, made in America, send it to Japan. And not that you actually have to do that. Run it through a translator and spit it back out the other side in English and see what you get. Because Fight Super Robot Lifeform Transformers is so good.
There's so much. I want to say this. Regardless of what your feelings are about Transformers Generation 1 or Beast Wars or any of the iterations, you can't really say Fight Super Robot Lifeform Transformers without cracking a smile.
True.
It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
It's on the same level of Beast King Go Lion or some of the other stuff we've translated over the years. So yeah, it's up there. But for anybody out there who doesn't know what Transformers is about, or maybe you only know like the more recent series, and you don't know the OG, the first Transformers series depicts a war among giant robots that transform into vehicles and other objects. That's about as simplistic as it gets. And we'll explain why we're keeping it pretty simple as we get into these episodes, because the 3 episodes that we watched tonight is actually the mini-series that occurred before season 1 back in 1984. So this was kind of like a mini TV movie that it was like a pilot. So if it got greenlit, they would go on and actually have seasons. Obviously, it did very, very well. They got picked up. They went on for a number of episodes after this. But basically, the end of this one kind of wraps things up neatly, but then they had to kind of blur their way into the new season. So at the end of this one, spoiler alert, the Decepticons actually are defeated by the Autobots, surprise, surprise. And the Autobots are going to sort of pack up and fuel up and head back to Cybertron. But when they had news that the series was picked up, the Autobots kind of like remained behind to fend off the renewed and resurgent threat from the Decepticons, along with their human allies, Spike and Sparkplug Witwicky. Witwicky. If you were wondering why the name of what was Shia LaBeouf's name? Something Witwicky? Sam Witwicky. If you were wondering why that last name was so weird, it came from this original series. So
right.
If you never knew that before, then that might be the fact of your pod. Yeah. So there we go. You want to jump right into the theme song?
Let's get into it.
Let's go for it, buddy. Because for me, this is one of the like most iconic, recognizable theme songs you'll ever hear.
Right. And we've had some theme songs recently that have sort of had that like distorted robot voice in the background. We've had Voltron, right, that does that sort of different universe. And you're like, all right, you're like, all right, I get it. Like, knock it off. Yeah. This one actually does a great job of incorporating it into the theme song itself. I will say this. For as much of the theme song in terms of what it sets the tone, you would assume that there was more action and more fighting in this actual show, because the entire theme song is really just sort of Decepticons rolling out with guns ablazing, Autobots rolling out with guns ablazing, and then everybody's firing and shooting at one another, and then tossing them and throwing them overhead, and that's sort of the entire thing. You get the most, probably one of the biggest taglines, just sort of the robots in disguise. Right. And sort of that motivating, churning music, that kind of comes along with it, which is instantly recognizable to anybody who's ever watched this, or maybe even if you haven't. I don't even remember. I try really hard to block out any of the movie versions of Transformers, and so I'm desperately trying to think whether or not those actually had a little bit of sort of this theme song like incorporated into maybe like the intro or the outro.
Man, I think the closest thing that they kept was the transforming sound but
Yeah,
just like
but I
turned
mean,
up to like PHX 11. Like that was the
truthfully, it's Michael Bay. Who gives a fuck? Just guys, stop going to see his movies. He'll stop making them if we stop going. And I'm talking to you overseas.
China.
I think domestically we're getting sick and tired of it, but
We're
you
still
guys
pretty stupid
overseas,
here.
we're still paying money for it. But come on, guys, let's sign a petition and let's just stop going to Michael Bay movies. No more Turtles. No more Transformers movies. He's looking to be able to bookend this. There's got to be a trifecta for another 80s franchise that he's going to ruin for us. How do you want your childhood ruined is what I think.
Track.
Yeah, exactly. What do you hold near and dear to your heart? Because I'll be honest with you. You know what he's probably going to ruin next? Rainbow fucking Bright. How are you going to feel about that?
He already
Pretty
ruined
trashy.
our podcast on Rainbow Bright.
Oh, Christ.
That's a lost episode. A bit trivia for you guys out there. Thanks, Michael Bay.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Michael Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Much appreciated.
Hope you feel good about yourself.
But I mean, this theme song's great. I think the one thing that was really confusing for me is that, they, again, in these shows where we've had such a high volume of characters, like such a large cast of characters,
there are a lot.
This theme song only clocks in at like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's short.
And it is like Transformers more than meets the eye. And then they are shooting, and then they're firing at each other.
Yeah,
and there's
and then
one verse,
transforming, which is pretty sweet.
And then that's it.
Just done.
And then you are done, and you are thrown into to the war that is currently going on Cybertron, and you're like, okay, wait, at least maybe an introduction to this.
No, see, I was good because they were just like Transformers, got it, and they were like robots in disguise, got it, more than meets the eye. Okay. Doesn't tell me much, but it's cute.
It's kind of redundant.
And then
Fair
they're
enough.
like, Autobots use their powers to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. Oh, okay, cool. It's like a synopsis.
But they
right
don't. They really don't. That's what's terrible.
The word destroy is a bit strong, I think, in this.
Yeah, destroy is a really strong verb to use here. It sounds like they more are like, maybe we could talk it out with you guys and maybe you could stop bullying us.
Maybe we'll just knock them down for a little bit so they can come back in the next episode for the next 87 episodes, whatever it was. So, but I mean, as far as the theme song goes, like, you've told me everything I need to know. It's Autobots. They're good guys. They're trying to stop the bad guys who are the Decepticons. They're all robots in disguise. And you got Robot Boys. Done.
Boom.
And then show me a bunch of like cool designs of these characters that sometimes I can't tell who's who. That's fine. And then show them.
It's like watching a Michael Bay movie.
Exactly. Just a bunch of jagged metal pieces smashing together in some pits every once in a while. Just like this cartoon. But no, it's I love one of my favorite things as a kid was watching the actual transformations, and then as like when I started to get into drawing, when I started to get into sort of engineering type stuff or just like model building, seeing how they actually would like fit together and then move into like humanoid version or the later beast versions that they turned into or the vehicles and stuff. That always fascinated me. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. That you could physically take one of these toys, turn it into a jet fighter, and then turn it back into like a humanoid thing. That's one thing on the cartoons. It's a whole nother thing at the toys. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have any of these growing up?
Toy? Oh crap! I had a shit ton of them.
See, I didn't have that many. I only had like one. I think I had like one Dinobot that turned into a Stegosaurus, and that's literally the only one I can remember.
I had two of the Dinobots, and actually a friend, and he might actually be listening to this episode because he has commented on some things on Twitter for us. My buddy Archie Kubarubia, he had all of the other Dinobots except for Grimlock, and I had an original Grimlock, and I gave it to him.
Oh, very cool! Complete the whole set.
Yeah, got to get it in there.
Very nice.
So, but I had a bunch. I had a couple from the Transformers movie in the 80s.
Right. I think it came out in like 86. It was after the first season. I think it took place between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was 2 and 3. But
I
watched
off a shitload of characters, which
oh man, that was a very confusing thing because you learn more sort of about the inner workings of the things that have been talked about, like the Allspark and
all these little mythology things.
Right. Yeah. And so you sort of get into the history of Transformers and the race and their culture. And so that was more interesting, but it was just I have this very distinct memory of, and this is just about the Transformers movie, as well as also Transformers, is that when I would go and visit my grandparents and they would take me to like one of those pharmacy video stores, that it was like a pharmacy, but they also rented videos on the side. And so it was, I would get the live action My Little Monster.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Dude, I used to wear that tape out, man. I love that.
Episodes of Transformers that they had that was on VHS. And then it was always the Transformers movie from the 80s. And you might as well have just, if I went to go visit them for a week, it was just a constant cycle of that.
Transformers Marathon.
Over and over and over and over again.
I have to say, I got to correct myself. It wasn't My Little Monster with, who was that? Howie, or, you're saying My Little Monster.
Yeah, Howie Mandel.
Howie Mandel. I'm thinking of My Pet Monster.
I'm sorry, there was a live action for My Pet Monster.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the one I watched.
Oh, okay, cool. So we were watching the same thing. We just called it something different.
Right,
right.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, fuck you, Howie Mandel.
Fuck you, Howie Mandel.
Your germophobia. No, it's fine. I got no problem with Howie Mandel. All right, anything else from the theme song there? Pretty fantastic.
No.
One of my favorites.
No, I mean, just
you good?
Great through and through. Yeah, cool. It's short. I'd actually be kind of curious to see some of the later seasons, and if they changed it.
I thought you were going to say other themes, which we'll get into later this month, like Beast Wars.
Oh no.
Drunk.
Jesus, they're so bad.
But we
watched and had an opportunity to look at this 3-part miniseries, and so we got a lot to get into.
Yeah, more than meets the eye.
God damn it! I just walked right into that fucking thing.
I wasn't even trying. I was just trying to say the title of the miniseries because it's literally just titled More Than Meets the Eye, parts 1, 2, and 3. And you guys can watch these online. They're about 20-25 minutes long each. And I thought it was great. What was your general just kind of impression, high level impression?
They were. I was okay with them.
You're okay with the episode?
Yeah, I
Okay.
wasn't. There were moments, there were parts to it that I wasn't very excited about.
Oh, there were a lot of rough spots. For
yeah,
sure.
they're like, in terms of how this holds up, it is not spectacular. It's not something that you would go back and watch and just be like, oh my god, I totally forgot about all the small nuances of Transformers, and just these tiny little tidbits and morsels that I would have picked up from the Transformers series. No, it's as bland and like what you see is what you get, which is almost contradictory to the Robots in Disguise. It might as well have just sort of they may well have just tagged it, and what you see is what you get. Like, it really is sort of that bland.
Robot life Transformers.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it, and I had fun watching it. And I think that the reason I enjoyed it so much was for specific characters that were in it.
Definitely.
There were specific people who were in that I was like, yes, what is this person doing?
Well, actually, let's talk about that real quick. Without going into each of these, I just kind of want to run down the list of characters that we're introduced to here, because there's a lot. And I honestly, because of the way things worked out, I thought there were a lot more Decepticons than Autobots. I was very wrong.
Yeah.
So we've got Optimus Prime, and then we've got Brawn, Bluestreak, Bumblebee, Cliffjumper, Gears, Hound, Huffer, Ironhide, Jazz, Mirage, Prowl, Ratchet, Sideswipe, Sunstreaker, Trailbreaker, Wheeljack, Windcharger, and Hauler, who was more just like a vehicle and not a Transformer, but they gave him a name anyway, and you never heard him talk, and he never showed up again. He was just a big rig tow truck kind of thing that picked Hall's broken ass out of a canyon and just picked him up. And that was it. You never saw him again. Hauler. Now, we can talk about this a little bit before we get into the episodes, because honestly, we're not going to walk beat by beat through the episodes. It's a pretty standard story. We're just kind of hit the highlights, because there's some fun stuff to talk about. There's some really silly stuff, and there's some stuff.
This truly is a tale as old as time.
Tale as old as time. So Megatron's Decepticons. Yeah, we got Megatron, Starscream, Skywarp, Thundercracker, Reflector, which is crazy, Soundwave, and Laserbeak, Ravage, and Rumble, and Shockwave.
Well, we should mention that really, Shockwave has Laserbeak.
So this always screwed me up
Rumble.
when I was a kid too. Soundwave has the chest cassette tapes.
Correct. Shockwave is the guy who remained on Cybertron to sort of monitor and make sure everything was okay.
Exactly, and he's the one that looks least like the rest of the Transformers. He looks like Black Manta from Aquaman. He has this. He looks like it, just with like a weird, like diamond-shaped visor thing that protrudes from his face. One of the weirdest.
Inside that diamond, there's like one single focused beam of light that like comes out. I had the action figure and I loved it. I was so happy.
And you don't see him again, I'm assuming, for a while, because he stays back in Cybertron. He's like second in command back there.
He's in the movie a lot, but that was it.
Oh, in the animated.
Yeah, oh, okay. When he was correct.
So real quick, give me your top 3 favorite Autobots.
Autobots?
Just from this intro.
Oh man, I have to say Optimus Prime. I feel like
that's why I said 3 and not 2, because I just gave you a preview.
I feel like you have to say Optimus Prime, just because he's like the John Wayne of cowboys.
Robot cowboy.
Yeah, robot cowboys. Like I had a really hard time once I sort of made the comparison where I was like, everything sounded like everything that comes out of Optimus Prime's mouth. If you were to say it had like, if you were to put like a robot filter over top of John Wayne, in any movie that he's ever done, like any Western, I'd just be like, yeah, I could probably that could be mistaken for like a Transformers quote.
Yeah.
And then I could not get it out of my head then, and then just continued to get rid of the robot filter in my brain and just hear John Wayne speaking through Optimus Prime.
So you're like preaching at this point.
Oh God.
The comic, not the TV show.
Oh, phew. Thank God. Because Evan and I have gotten into it, because that is a terrible show that we both agree that we hate.
It's getting. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's weird. Good. This is like a prequel season, because they're not. Next season, they'll actually go on the road. But anyway, that's the point. All right, so we got Optimus. So who are your two?
So Optimus, I like Bumblebee.
Do you?
I do like
in this series?
I do, and I'll get into why I kind of like him.
Okay.
But then, what was it? I could not remember when we started watching Hound, and I could not remember him playing as like pivotal of a role in the rest of the series as he did in this 3-part miniseries. Right. And there was something about it where I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm getting behind this. I'm kind of enjoying what I'm watching with him. Plus, he gets a lot of screen time, especially in the first episode. And so there's a couple, like Huffer. Is that it?
Yes.
Huffer. Because
I even made a note. I'm like, is there a fucking Autobot called Huffer?
Yeah. Huffer shows up for like all of 2 seconds.
Just to say his name.
Yeah. And you figure with like this large of a cast of characters, a lot of times what they're doing is every line is just like, what do you think, Ironside? And he's just like, well, oh no, Jazz. God. Fucking Jazz with his awful accent.
Jazz. Yeah, I don't know what
his terrible, really. Terrible.
Between him and Wheeljack,
yeah, it's constant, just like shaking your head.
What I think it was though too is because the toys were already out, so they were just like, let's bring each of these guys on just so we can push the toy.
Yeah,
because if you bring Huffer on for 2 seconds and some weird kid or a mom that doesn't know what's going on is gonna buy a Huffer toy. And that's no offense to any moms or kids out there that bought a Huffer toy, because I again have like none of these, so more power to you.
And this is a counterpoint with Sean and Dave.
Yeah.
So Dave is taking the stance of that it's fine, whatever you did, Mom, and I'm taking the opposite point. So shame on you, shame on you for not sitting down and figuring out who the hell Huffer was with his one line of dialogue that he has as he's breaststroking through the water trying to save a friend. Like, unbelievable that you would not really get into this a little bit more for this one character that was in it for like one line of dialogue and then just disappears.
And who has a name that's going to be a gateway drug for your kids getting into the harder stuff. Just a kid with a can of spray paint and a rag in the garage holding a Huffer action figure in one hand.
Oh no.
That's what happened to Charlie Day. Anyway,
really...
all right. So you said,
is it better than like a jazz musician like getting out and like setting up like in getting ready to play a set, and then he puts a jazz action figure
I would love that guy, actually.
Like on top of what he's doing.
People.
He's like,
jazz music and jazz the Autobot is my kind of people.
People are like, hey, this guy's really good. You should really pay attention. He's got a transformer.
Got-
Like, fair enough.
One of the
BB
OGs.
King.
All right, so Optimus Prime and Hound and Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say two of those are mine too. So Optimus Prime and Hound. I just like Hound because it was Jeep, and I just kind of have always liked
Yeah.
the military kind of, tough style Jeep.
He had that cool shoulder rocket
Yeah,
thing,
he had that.
right?
I don't think.
He never used it.
Well, that is exactly why I like this next one, Cliff Jumper, because he's like this little angry dude that for whatever reason, he's like the smaller car. But then at one point in the episode, like out of nowhere, he just pulls this massive fucking gun, and I'm just like, where the hell did you pull that from? He just aims it at Megatron. They're like, we're just doing recon. It's him and Hound, I think. They're just doing recon. We should go back to Optimus. And all of a sudden, it cuts back to Cliff Jumper, and he's just got this massive bazooka on his arm, and he just fires it off. It's like, all right, I like this guy. This guy's fiery.
I love in this moment the line of dialogue. He's like, "What are you talking about? I've got Megatron locked and dead in my sights. Of course I'm gonna take the shot." And then he fucking misses.
He doesn't even anywhere near him.
Doesn't even.
He shoots the rocky outcropping that the Decepticons have decided would be the best possible base. Look at those rocks. That's our new base. You fucking idiot.
What are we gonna build this base with? And then just Megatron just looking at you and going, improvise.
Improvise. All right. Speaking of Decepticons, you don't have as many to choose from, but who are your three favorites here?
Starscream, and Starscream.
Really, all Starscream.
All Starscream. All day long,
he's
Starscream.
But for terrible
he is
reasons.
the best. He is the best.
His
insubordination
is so strong.
No, that's what I want to talk about. Okay. All right, he is blatantly insubordinate.
Oh, not even trying to hide.
Like not even trying to be coy about
to anyone.
There's no
he's not even like
aggressive.
looking for allies. He's not building an alliance with anyone. Anyone that gets close to him is just like, "Fuck you! I should be the leader." And they're like, "Dude, I just came to like give you your Energon break." Like,
yeah, I love the fact that there's this one moment I believe in the first episode where he's talking shit to Rumble.
Yes.
And Rumble's just like, "No, dude, like you're never gonna lead us. You're a jerk."
But even Starscream was even like, "Rumble, there will be one day when I don't take orders from you and I will lead the Decepticons." Rumble's just like, "Fuck off, man. Ain't nobody gonna follow you." Rumble's like this 2 foot tall. Well, he's kind of like human sized, I guess.
Yeah.
Just awesome robot. I love Rumble's attitude.
So what I would actually really say is that I would say Starscream, Soundwave, and Shockwave. Those are probably my three favorites.
No Megatron.
No Megatron.
He's like the big bad.
I don't really like the Megatron character. I feel like, you know what?
Yeah.
This is my idea after watching this miniseries about Starscream is that the reason that he's so insubordinate is that he has been promoted to a level where he is wholly incompetent at what he does.
The Peter principle.
Right. Exactly. And so that level of hubris, that level of confidence that he has, he's recognized and realized that he's never going to get promoted.
Right.
And so they're never going to
defaulted
fire
to
him.
openly threatening the leader every chance he gets.
It's one of those things where like Starscream doesn't give a fuck.
No.
Like he has never given a fuck, and he will never give an actual fuck. Like he wants one thing: he wants to get rid of Megatron, and he wants him out. And he'll do anything that's necessary, from like shit talk. And later in the series, like he tries to kill him. He's always trying to usurp. Like it's amazing. It's amazing to watch him not only just realize and come to that recognition of just like I'm never gonna get promoted beyond where I am right now. Right. I'm at the like a terminal position within this organization of Decepticons, and so I don't care. They can't fire me. What are they gonna do? They fire me. I'm gonna go take all the secrets and everything I know and walk right over to those fucking Autobots, and then give them all of your valuable information. So you're not gonna fire me.
Wars,
exactly. Yeah.
No, that's how that go.
Like, you're not going to get rid of me. You're just going to shower me in praise. Like, you're just going to, or you're going to ignore me. Or you're going to ignore me and then talk shit about me.
Well, granted, though, when Starscream's just, like, blowing shit up because he just wants to test it. And Megatron's like, the fuck are you doing? He's like, I just need to test the Energon to make sure it works. And it works! He's like, you motherfucker, you just set us back, like, 3 days. What are you doing?
And then I really think that I love Soundwave.
Soundwave's
simply because when you think about all of this advanced technology, and like when you really think about the Decepticons, like when you break it down about when they get scanned and turned back into robots
Right.
on the planet Earth. They go to what? They go to like a construction site, a military base,
Right.
and then like an audio superstore.
Of all the things, man.
Of all the fucking things, he is like an 80s style cassette boombox that
in
just
his
has
chest.
little tapes that come out of his chest that just turn into Ravage, which is the cat. It turns into Laserbeak, which is the vulture.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Rumble.
This is like a little man with pile drivers for fists.
They are so cool, and it's such an awesome idea that these guys pop out of his chest and do stuff. Plus, I will say this, that I never feel like they ever can overuse Soundwave's voice.
Oh, never.
Of just sort of that, like,
and most of these guys are Frank Welker, by the way. Like,
yes,
9 times out of 10 in this show, it's either going to be Peter Cullen doing one voice or Frank Welker doing a dozen. So
yeah,
I threw a bunch of numbers that don't really add up together. 9 times out of 10, one and a
don't
dozen.
Do math.
But whatever, it's fine. But
what were your 3 favorite?
Well, I mean, Megatron was always weird because I never saw like what his strength was as far as leadership goes, other than just like threatening people.
Yes.
But then he just turned into like a small gun. And I was like, he turned into like a duck hunt gun. Like it didn't look anything like, and then Starscream had to wield it. He couldn't even fire himself. Starscream had to hold him and shoot. And it wasn't all that powerful. He was better just staying a robot.
Can you imagine being number 2 at your job?
You have to hold,
and then
your boss.
number 1 turns into your weapon, right. And you have to fire. Like you are literally firing the power of number 1.
Or just firing your boss.
Yeah.
It's the only time you can do that. So I don't know. Megatron was always kind of a weird fascination for me, but I love Soundwave because of those 3 things, and Rumble as like a secondary. Rumble is awesome because Rumble doesn't give a fuck. Rumble just like straight up tells Starscream he's never going to be the leader, and then he just proceeds to like pile drive an entire power station into like dust.
and he punches Hound in the stomach when they're underwater.
He punches Hound in the stomach underwater while making tidal waves, and just sends this much bigger guy flying. And the best part of that scene is when Rumble gets out of the water, there's a human waiting for him by the name of Spike Witwicky, who Spike's just like, hey, what's going on? What'd you do to my friend Hound? And Rumble just knocked his ass to the ground and walks away. He does not give a fuck. He's the honey badger of Decepticons. Rumble's amazing. But no, I wanted a shout out for Reflector because I had no clue what this thing was. If you are watching the show and you see kind of like 3 weird looking clones that all look the same, that's Reflector. Because Reflector is actually 3 different robots. It's I think I misplaced their name. It's like they basically are made up of like a camera or some sort of optic device, like a telescope or a camera or a microscope, something like that. So all 3 of these guys that are humanoid in size at one point just all fold up into like a Polaroid camera that another Decepticon uses to take like surveillance shots, basically like spy shots. He like clicks their little shutter and a little Polaroid prints out. I'm just like, none of this makes sense, but that's fantastic. I love it.
Well,
their names are Viewfinder, Spyglass, and Spectro, because that's important. Not really. Go ahead.
Well, I think the point that you bring up is that none of this really makes sense.
Mm-mm.
Is that I'm willing to believe and suspend my personal disbelief to see these robots in disguise transform in and out. But the thing that I can't get over is that when the Witwickies are inside of one I think it was either Jazz or one of the other, or maybe it was Hound.
I think they were in Hound.
And they're coming under fire, and instead of calling to the other Autobots, because he's a robot that's pretty much like synced up to communicate with them, he asks one of the Witwickies, he asks them to pick up the radio and call in help for like support to come to him.
I can kind of get some of this stuff where it's like they technically have landed on a primitive planet to their own society. So here's a great place to launch into what the hell this story's actually about. So we're introduced on Cybertron. There's a battle between the Decepticons and the Autobots. The Decepticons are basically like mercenary soldiers. They're highly trained. They're lethal. they'll stop at nothing to be in control. Whereas the Autobots are kind of like your ragtag group of fighters, kind of cobbled together as like a militia. They're kind of doing some reconnaissance. They're trying to get enough energy to leave the planet, which they do. But they're not turning into the familiar vehicles at this point. They're actually turning into Cybertronian vehicles. So a lot of the Decepticons turn into like these weird kind of like three-winged, almost pyramid-shaped jet fighters. The Autobots either don't turn into anything, or they turn into sort of like weird futuristic alien-looking shuttlecraft, like vans, basically. I think like Wheeljack or somebody turned into like this weird van.
Into like a Ford Windstar.
Yes, it turned into like an Econoline van with just like extra shielding to prevent laser blasts. So
yeah,
and then when they come to Earth, so this we've talked about in past episodes. A number of shows have always been like the bad guys are fleeing through space in a spaceship. Or I'm sorry, the good guys are fleeing through space in a spaceship. The bad guys are chasing them through space in a spaceship.
Right.
Something happens that both of them end up crashing on a planet or going through this weird portal, and they both end up crash landed at the same place together. Well, guess where most of it started? Back here in 1984 with Transformers, and probably earlier than that from some of the sources that they drew from. But as far as we're concerned, it started here with Transformers.
Right.
So that's pretty much what happened. So there's the big fight between all of them, and then Sean, do you remember how long they lie dormant until they get reactivated again? Because this cracked me up.
4 million years.
He's not exaggerating. It's literally 4 million years later. Like, to
4
the day.
million years.
Where something activates, there's like a volcanic eruption, or like the shift kind of like...
Probably that...
What's that?
Probably that 4 million year old timer that they set.
It's probably that 4 million year old timer. Yeah. So that time, the alarm goes off, somebody hits snooze, and then this little pod kind of goes out, and it starts scanning things in the area, because it's going to use, this makes zero sense to me, but it's just a fun mechanic. It's going to use whatever is in the area so that they can be repaired with that transformational mechanism that'll turn them into something in the area so that they can like hide within whatever the environment happens to be.
Sure. They're robots in disguise.
They're robots in disguise, exactly. So if you're in a prehistoric jungle with apes and dinosaurs and
knock it off.
I mean,
knock it off, Dave.
So that's what you're going to get. If you're in, 1984 America, you're going to get big rigs and apparently jet fighters and occasionally the cassette tapes and things like that. So this whole point that I'm trying to get to is that Hound is now modeled after like an old Jeep. Right? So it's an old kind of military style Jeep. So yes, he's going to have that like hanging communicators and stuff. So yeah, he should be able to just like access that, but it was kind of a cool thing to let the humans sort of, tickle his little dongle there and call back home to the troops.
Get that dongle.
That dongle.
Get that dongle out. I think that a lot of these kind of weird moments where you think to yourself, you guys are just robots. Aren't you all sort of like, what's your Wi-Fi range that you guys can't like not talk to each other?
It should be like solar system.
Yeah. Shouldn't you dum-dums have like Bluetooth so you guys can just like sync and like communicate and talk and have ubiquitous messaging? That sounds like a thing that you should all have, considering that 4 million years ago you're from a way more advanced civilization with like you're a technologically based society.
Everything about
you should have this. Yeah. And it's just kind of surprising, but you realize that it's the reason that they do that is because they need the humans. They need, they need
because
spark.
They know the planet and they know how to get the energy access.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about that really quick.
God.
Because there is a moment where Optimus Prime is just like, we don't really need your assistance or help. We need to figure this out on our own. And the Witwikis are just like, yeah, but we know Earth better than you do. And Optimus Prime turns on a dime and is like, well, maybe he does this weird thing where like he's like stroking his Transformer Gandalf beard, and he's just like, yeah, maybe we could use you guys.
Yeah, you do have a point.
Cut to them like back in the base, just like chilling and making themselves at home.
The quickness with which they're assimilated into this culture is like almost as quick as the Dino Saucers. Like when those guys just walked up on giant talking dinosaurs from space and we're just like totally chill best friends, it's like the same level right here. I actually have a note where I'm like, this show was actually pretty great until the humans showed up. Like I could have just done this whole thing without.
Yeah, they were really tertiary. truthfully did not need them.
It was just
in
it was
this.
an in between for the Autobots to explain more about themselves to the kids watching. This.
Sure.
That's literally all it was.
And I also think that one of the main reasons, aside from just the additional explanations, the Spike character in particular is a way for them to ground this, so that kids are seeing this and they're just like, oh, well, like if Transformers are real, like I could be like a Spike character.
Or like I shouldn't be scared of them because they're friends with this hard hat wearing hooligan named
Correct.
Spike. I gotta tell you, man, did you watch Sons of Anarchy?
Yes.
So Jax with his little journal on top of the roof. That's all I kept thinking of every time they cut to Spike and he's like writing in his diary. There's one point, I don't know if you have this lyric. I don't know if you have this quote down, but he's like, Optimus Prime treats his robots really well. I think he would make a neat president. It's just like, what the fuck? You're an alien robot monster to become a neat president. I hope he's not 18. I hope he could not vote at this point. You dumb.
It was just amazing. I was like, what is this like junior blogger? What is this live journal kid doing up on top of this vista, looking out under this canyon, and it's just like, dear diary, today I met some cars, but they're not just cars. They're also robots, and now we're best friends. Like, just settle the fuck down, Spike.
It was pretty bad. His dad was just a bad spark plug.
Oh, Jesus.
He basically was just like, when the robots come to save them, because so at this point, Megatron and the Decepticons are looking for energy sources so they can power up their ship and fly back to Cybertron and take it over. And as they learn, there's plenty of energy available on Earth, so they can harvest enough that they can literally just like take over the entire galaxy, universe, whatever. So they're trying to harvest that with the help of Rumble. And because Rumble pretty much shuts down this entire power station, the two guys that show up and try to figure out what's going on, they get attacked by is it Ravage? Yeah, they get attacked by Ravage, and then they get caught in like the collapse and everything by Rumble. So they have to be saved by the Transformers, by the Autobots.
Right.
These humans react like, this is totally normal. Thank you guys so much for saving us. What else can we possibly do for you? Not freaking out, not calling the military, not just passing out, pissing themselves. Nothing. Totally fine.
Everybody seems unbelievably chill with the fact that there are these giant fighting robots.
Super chill.
That are just...
But at the same time, they're impressed with like the things that they can change into, or like the fact that Mirage can go invisible and shit like that. That blows his mind. Not the fact that an alien civilization of walking sentient robots that transform into shit have landed on Earth.
I want to say that I feel like Sparkplug and Spike were sort of like the lowest common denominator that you were looking for in terms of coming into the fray and being introduced to an alien society.
I was so upset, spoiler alert, by the end of this 3-series run, where those two buffoons get invited to go to Cybertron as like heralds of the Earth community, and like, these are our messengers that we're sending.
Gotta get liaisons. Gotta get liaisons, Dave.
At least they have their own hard hat.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I want to know.
You want to talk about hard hats?
Yeah, no. I want to talk about how every human being, every actual human being that is in this show, all right, is white, wears a gray jumpsuit with blue jeans, and has a yellow fucking hard hat. Guys, we are whitewashing ourselves in the 80s in terms of what's in this show. It is terrible.
Here's the best part of the human interaction in these shows, right? It only pretty much takes place at like power plants. So either at a power plant in a desert or a power plant at a dam. One of my favorite things is they go to Sherman Dam and they have this big fight between Optimus Prime and Megatron. I don't even know if that's a real thing. I don't know if Sherman Dam is real. They have a big fight on top of the dam. But before that, Megatron is basically like overloading the dam so he can just load as much energon as he can into these cubes. There's a great line from one of the random techs, a white guy with blue jeans and a helmet, who just says, "Hey Ed, look at this gauge!" And just the way he says it, it's cracked me up to no end. Look at this gauge! The only other people in this entire thing are random folk who are on the top of their roof because the broken dam is about to release the raging river into their home and pretty much wipe it out, and probably them too, even though they're up on the roof. So do you remember the sequence where like I can't remember who it was, might have been Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, somebody, they were basically just like shooting lasers from their trunk to make a new path for the water. Sure, that worked.
Yeah.
So they divert a river basically right before it smashes into the house, and literally the people that lived in this house must have been, I mean this in the best possible way, they must have been really special, because the first thing they say is, "We were saved. Thanks, neighbors." Thanks, neighbors. All right, I'll leave it. That's fine. Thanks, neighbors.
It's like you had a giant, like you had
a space monster.
You had a huge space monster shoot a laser into your ground and run through your human cul-de-sac to divert the flow of water. Whee! And you're
thanks, neighbors.
That killed, because they're getting on the roof. They're getting on the roof.
There's 4 or 5 people up there.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 people that are up on this roof, and like they all in unison, like they rehearsed it.
Yeah.
Like they rehearsed.
Like, hey, when space monsters show up with space lasers to save us from the broken dam someday in the future, all shout "we."
And they were just like, "Hey guys, maybe for our next house, maybe we don't buy it next to a dam." And they're like, "Shut up, Fred. Okay, get off the fucking roof."
That was an idea.
Damn it, Fred.
So this line of dialogue is followed by a question I have for you.
Go ahead.
Why does Starscream have a slingshot?
Okay, I could not figure this out. This
it's like his backup. Like
again,
he's a fighter, like a fighter jet.
Again, you think to yourself, the mechanics that are set up in this show. Yes, he is on Cybertron, this like rectangular, like almost like pyramid shaped jet fighter plane on Cybertron, which is very sleek, very cool. I like it. Sure. When he's here on planet Earth, he is a military style.
He's like an F-16. He's like a Tomcat.
Yeah, he's an F-16 jet. And so he is, and he has guns on the side of his arms, and it makes no sense other than the idea, and this is the only thing I could come up with when this occurred, was that in the 80s, what was like a popular toy for
Dennis
kids?
the Menace.
Yeah. No, seriously. Like, again, it was one of those things that like, I knew a friend who owned a slingshot, and it was one of those things where I was like, "Hey, can I come over and play with your slingshot?"
But like,
my mom was like, "Absolutely fucking
of all the fucking things." It was like, I guess because he like, at some point they said he ran out of energy, or they were like, "You're using too much energy," so he's just like, "Well, I'm just gonna pick up a cube of energy and shoot it at you with this fucking space slingshot."
Yeah. It did not make a lot of sense.
Here's the thing, though. It makes less. Does it make less or more sense than Optimus Prime having an energy axe for a hand and Megatron having an energy ball and chain mace?
Yeah, like a flail.
Like a flail for a hand.
Yeah, those don't make any sense
they were
whatsoever.
Pretty sweet, that battle axe was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, and like it was finally like one of those times, and this is in the second episode where you're just like, great, like we're getting to like the meat of this conflict. We've got these big characters, and look, they're not transforming into a Mack truck or a handgun, to fight one another. Like they're going at it mano or like robot, and they are trying on this one, but man. Like the weapons that they picked could not have been more medieval and boring. In terms of their selection,
they just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's again, like you asserted earlier, is this something where like they've been assimilated into this older culture, and so their reference is now skewed because I mean, let's be honest, they've been asleep for 4 million years. That's right. And so.
I love the fact that whatever rig they scanned for Optimus Prime, that driver straight up had a battle axe behind his seat. He was just driving across America with a fucking battle axe at the seat.
What would it have been if Optimus had held up his arm and had gone to, because this is like a truck driver, and I'm pulling bad stereotypes with this, so bear with me. If it had been something like where it turned into like a bunch of like nudie women magazines,
or just like a giant pouch of snuff or something.
Yeah, like just some chewing tobacco.
Chewing tobacco fist. Sloppiest punch ever.
It just turned into a can of Monster Energy drink. And he was just like, ready to go.
Oh, it just turned into truck nuts. That would have been more like Megatron. It would have been like truck nuts hanging off of his fist.
That would have been
think we
amazing.
solved it.
One has like a mud flap as a shield,
See, no, I
and then
was
truck
gonna- I
nuts
was
as a
gonna say
weapon.
Mudflap, but Mudflap was a character that they
Correct.
one of the movies, one of the racist characters. I think it was like Mudflap and Skipjack or something like that. I might be making up words. Skip Trace, doesn't matter. They were
It was
terrible.
mud flap and disappointment.
Disappointments all around.
Yep.
Yeah, Truck Nuts. Truck Nuts would have been a good Michael Bay Transformer.
So, kind of as we're talking about sort of the anatomy of vehicles. Now, Dave, I know that you have owned your vehicle and it has had a lot of surgery.
It's got to go back in again too. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So, I know that you understand a lot about cars.
About old things that fall apart. Yep.
Correct. And so, I just kind of want to take us back to the first episode very early on when we have this initial battle with Bumblebee and I think it's Hound or maybe it's Jazz.
Which on Cybertron?
Right.
Okay.
When they're on Cybertron and the Decepticons see them and there's somebody gets shot and Bumblebee gets shot and he kind of like skitters. And remind you, as David mentioned, they're not cars on Cybertron. No. They're like a futuristic floating Ford Windstar, and then Bumblebee is like sort of like this little like mobile pod that sort of looks like what we would think of like a classic UFO. Right. And so he's sort of flying around in this instance, and he gets hit. And then the minivan that's in front of him deploys the back seat, and they kind of like zooms up into it, and he's like. And remember, he's flying and he's hovering and he's coasting. All right. And in this moment, the comment, he's just like, the minivan goes, "Is everything all right?" And Bumblebee's comment is, "Oh, I think I'll be okay. I got shot in the rear axle." I was like, you don't have any tires. Also, you don't have any fucking tires.
How the fuck do you know what a Bumblebee is? You're on a machine planet.
Yeah.
Stuff like that is fine.
Do you call him a machine pile?
A machine pile? You little machine pile?
Machine pile.
You're from a machine planet. No, like that. I'm trying to think of some of the other names that were kind of like.
Oh, like right out of the gate, whoever I think it was Jax.
Oh, like Jazz. I'd love to know that they had Jazz on Cybertron, like Cybertron and Jazz. I want to hear that music.
They make a comment which you should just like when you're first introduced to the characters on Cybertron, you should just open up the bag of words that you're gonna hear to make them sound futuristic that you're never gonna reference again, which is we not enough energy to last us a cortex.
Oh, cortex.
You're like, cool. I have no idea what a cortex is. That's
is a
great.
Time thing. Sure.
How far are we going? Do we have left to get back to the base to see Iacon? Oh, it's just one more mega mile. Settle the fuck down.
I love that they like kind of went metric with it, but still kept the miles. So they just completely screwed up everything. A mega mile. Is it like more than a kilomile or less?
Oh god.
Is it a gigamile? Go fuck yourself.
A teramile. Wow.
Boy, that's a long trip. No, I do like that Transformers are constantly getting shot in the ass and making like references to it. So like Bumblebee gets shot in the rear axle, somebody else takes one in the drive shaft. I think that was Hound.
Yeah, that's the other
Hound when he falls over a cliff. And then I forget who it is at the end. Somebody takes one in the linkage. So these are just like these are all Forrest Gump allusions to getting shot in the ass.
In the linkage.
In the linkage. And then we're getting a little short on time, so here's a question for you. In the last episode, the Decepticons are basically like mining the quote-unquote crystal mines of Burma, which, okay, apparently that's like a huge energy source. They're going to make bank. They're going to take over the universe. But there's
got to get those rubies.
Got to get those rubies in Burma. But the Autobots are going to stop them. And one way they do this is by one of the humans going in to plant a bomb, okay,
this is ridiculous.
With Bumblebee, which obviously all goes to shit, and the mine just kind of collapses on him after Sparkplug, I think. I don't think it was Spike. Spike gets knocked into the wall by a machine, so he should be pretty much putty at this point.
Spike gets knocked into the wall.
Spike gets knocked into the wall. He should just be like a puddle of flesh and broken bones. And then the whole mine pretty much collapses on him. That's not really important. That's just kind of like a side point here.
It's a fun, hopeful glimpse because if you're listening to this and you're just like, oh, thank God they got rid of the wikis. No, sorry, friend.
They're made of tough stock. Do you remember Optimus having a little buddy called Roller.
I you know what? Oddly enough, I had no fucking recollection of
You have
that
no
thing.
idea what Roller was?
It was the dumbest. It was the. Oh,
I didn't know it. It looked like a little bomb sniffing like robot. He was just like, I'll just use my buddy Roller.
I will say the one thing about that whole interaction is that this stuff is happening, and Optimus Prime immediately is like, "Hey guys, like everybody's like, oh, we should rush into the mine before the bomb goes off and see if we can save, see what we can
Right.
do." And Optimus Prime, as a leader, I can respect this, and this is why I think he's the best leader in the show in terms of his comparison to Megatron. Is that he goes, "Guys, I got this," and like he attaches his trailer, transforms, he goes up the side of this mountain, and then the bomb explodes and he just tumbles.
just rolls him
He
down
just
the side of the
tumbles
mountain.
down.
I would
And
love to
then-
know why on earth did you even attach your trailer? There's no reason for it.
There's no
You're
fucking
not
reason.
hauling anything. There's no goods or services to be delivered here. What the fuck are you doing? Except it did have Roller in it.
Right. So they and then once they're at the
Ooh,
bottom,
also, real quick, I do have to say, this bomb had a timer of 60 seconds. Optimus says to everybody, he's like, if I'm not back in 5 minutes, come in after me. Like, holy shit. You're either about to blow up or get everyone killed. Or he was just
God.
hoping it would blow up before he got anywhere close to it. Like,
But I mean,
5 minutes sounds good.
Would the damage that he incurred from that explosion
Oh god, here we go.
would it have potentially forced him to take an excruciating 45 seconds where it sounds like he's having a hernia?
Is
in
that
order
what
to
it sounded like? It
transform?
sounded like a gross, like next door hotel room orgasm to me.
Really?
It sounded like there's old people next door. They just rented the room for a couple hours, and they're just trying to get it off. Not quite getting there, but they're gonna tough it out anyway. And things are a little rusty, and they don't quite want to go where you want them to go, but they're gonna fight through it anyway.
It sounded
That's
to
what it
me
sounded
like
like.
somebody like in your workplace public restroom, like right after
Like
lunch,
blowing an O-ring.
that ate something that
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, that's an emergency poop. Like that's a straight up emergency poop because it is just
uncomfortable.
so uncomfortable.
And if you watch this, right? So listeners out there, if you haven't been listening since day one, which kudos if you have, that's amazing. We barely made it that far.
Oof,
We started with a show called Turbo Team, which
right.
featured this kid who turned into a car, depending on the temperature of like anything that was thrown on him. So like if it was cold water, he'd turn back into a kid. If it was hot pizza, he'd turn into a car, and it was horrific. It was nightmarish. It was very
The
like
body terror.
horror, like Cronenberg style. This was close to that because you're watching in like frame by frame motion as Optimus is turning back from a car into a human, and like you're seeing all his joints like snap audibly into place, and like his fists are stuck inside of his arms, and then they eventually pop out, and eventually his head just kind of out of his
It
neck.
is so gross.
It was super disgusting and a little arousing, but really disgusting.
I feel like that's your Rule 34 right there. Oh
More
god.
than meets the eye.
Oof.
So to wrap this all up, it was actually a pretty cool way to kind of wrap this up because it wasn't really Optimus who saved the day. He has this cool kind of hero moment where he is trying to stop Megatron. He's freaking out. He knows he can't let the Decepticons off Earth. And he yells at one of his buddies. He's like, give me your jetpack. The guy's like, what are you talking about? He's like, give me your jetpack now. And I'm like, holy shit, Optimus is freaking out. The guy's like, all right. So Optimus straight up straps on a jetpack, flies into space, and starts shooting at the Decepticon vehicle as it's leaving. But obviously, he just gets blasted back down to Earth because they have much more powerful guns up there. So Optimus, who's been nearly blown up in the mine, rolled down the side of a cliff, is now dropped from like low atmosphere and lands, and everybody is obviously concerned for him. They're like, we should definitely let Wheeljack or whoever check you out. He's like, no, I'm fine. He's just so upset and frustrated that he can't do anything to stop the Decepticons. I'm going to leave it there because there's actually a pretty cool character that gets to sort of save the day, defeat the Decepticons, and then reunite with the Autobots. So it was pretty cool. They do leave it open that like the Decepticons can come back and start causing havoc. And you never see the Autobots and the humans actually leave Earth, so they could still be there once season 1 actually gets rolling. So just for that alone, I would say check out these three. But
Okay.
anything else on these before we get to user reviews?
No, let's get into these user
Get
reviews.
to some of these user reviews. So
These are
I mean,
great.
Transformers. It feels to me like almost like holy territory when it cartoons, right? It's sort of like untouchable. Like you shouldn't be able to even say a disparaging word against it. I think we're going to tonight because it's not as great as we remember.
Nope.
But I'm going to read a user review that is like most of the user reviews out there, which are just like glowing with praise because everybody's just like flushed with nostalgia when they watch them. So this one is from Will Lau from Canada. His review is titled, "Roll for it, again and again, and again and again and again. Transformers is the greatest cartoon show ever made. The toys are outstanding. It makes the cartoons of today look like trash. The first seasons of Transformers were the pinnacle of children's entertainment with super cool characters and awesome, well-built toys. Even the toys make the toys of today look like garbage. The toys hand a lot of die-casted parts." Remember, we do read these verbatim. So. The cartoon had a good, straightforward plot. Everything went well until the movie, where they killed all the best Autobots and subsequently killed the Transformers. Afterwards, the show was never the same, and the toys started becoming all cheap plastic with simple designs. But the glory days overshadowed the dark. Transformers will forever be immortalized in the hearts of millions. 10 out of 10. Thanks, Will.
Well,
For another, however.
God, let's get into this.
Oh boy.
So this is from the author Super Crazy Yowie. It is titled, he's from the UK. Yep. This is titled Dreadful. I'm going to try to emphasize there's one word in particular that he really kind of hits time and time again.
Trash and garbage and cheap?
It's toy. So let's see how this works out. Overrated and only for those people in their 20s whom wear particularly thick rose-tinted glasses, who never actually saw it in the first place because they were too young. Awful animation, dialogue, and a tired narrative. A real product of the 80s, the novel gimmick of a puzzle toy. That's right, toy, not the absurd, pretentious, and child-alienating collector's action figurine sold in the back of a poor cartoon or other paraphernalia only matters to those who bought the toy when they were actual children in the period of 84 to 87. It has become cult because those same adults are too immature to let go of their memories. Avoid.
My favorite part would be the solitary word at the end. Avoid.
All right, I gotta give him some credit. He makes some decent points, but buddy, maybe edit your sentences.
Well, that too, but also 1 out of 10 stars. You need to watch more cartoons.
Yeah,
you need to watch all the cartoons that we watch. You need to watch 111 more cartoons at this point. Jesus, we've watched some shit, and I don't think I've ever given one. I mean, we've put stuff in the dip before, meaning to erase it from existence, but
that's like a 1.
It's pretty bad. I don't know. I mean,
I'd give Ace Ventura: Pet Detective a 1.
Really, a 1?
Oh yeah.
There's got to be worse stuff out there that we just haven't watched.
Oh, well, we're gonna get to it eventually.
Well, speaking of that, though, so what is your review recommendation level for Transformers original series?
So for these Transformers OG, I recommend it. Again, I will throw in with the obvious caveat of there's some really wonky bad dialogue in this. And there is some very jilted moments that feel just uncomfortable and unnecessary as an audience member. Because when I think about Transformers and when I kind of have those fond memories, I think of these robots fighting, which, truth be told, this theme song kind of really sets you in for that, sort of that epic battle between these two. And a lot of the time, especially in the series that we watched, this 3-part miniseries, there are moments where the Autobots flat out say, they're like, we're really not fighters.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things, where th're just like, we're basically like clerks.
Yeah, they're like, we're really not fighters. Like, we're part of this resistance, but we're not going to be on the front line. We're not troops. Right. And so you sort of get in and you sort of understand a little bit more, and sort of how this epic battle is really not, it's really more one-sided, and it's coming from the aggression of these Decepticons. And boy howdy, it is worth it just to watch Starscream complain and be petulant and just a total bag of dicks. and he does such a great job at it. And it's really funny because there are some of these cartoons that we do watch where, the spotlight is really on the villains. These villains, for Soundwave and for all of his cassette tapes within his chest.
A ton of screen time and a ton of usefulness for the team. This is why I felt like there were more Decepticons, even though there were like half the number.
Right. And I think for that alone, I think it's worth that nostalgia that I had, as well as also, having some of those toys and stuff like that. I think it definitely threw me back into that mind frame, that state of mind where I was very satisfied with what I was watching, with the obvious notes and exceptions that there were some really, really weird parts. So I would recommend this, and it definitely does not get the dip.
Fair enough. Yeah, my only gripes were like the one-liners, the really, really bad puns.
Yeah.
But as far as animation style goes, yeah, it's crude compared to today's standards, but it was actually pretty solid, and it is really enjoyable to watch. I love watching transformations. I love watching battles. They're a little wonky and clunky, but it kind of goes with like the Transformers themselves. And I would say if you're interested in checking out any of the more recent Transformers series, you kind of have to start here, especially with something like Combiner Wars that's coming out. If you haven't picked up the comics or you haven't picked up the toys, you might not really have any clue what's going on with that story, but you should at least have a good foundation in the previous story, the Great War that took place,
right.
What Cybertron has to do with everything, because Combiner Wars actually brings it back to Cybertron. So everything kind of takes place there, and there's a lot of political things involved. I'm not going to spoil anything, but fans of Starscream, I think, will find this new iteration be really interesting.
You're going to dig it.
There's some cool stuff that happens with him in the new series. So it's really fun to watch him be such a whiny little second in command, little usurper throughout this series. And it's fun, man. It's just one of the classic 80s cartoons that like is always going to be on a recommended list, even if it's not the best thing that came out around that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, no dip for me. Definitely check it out. And then feel free to watch, more of the episodes once they got rolling. Again, remember, this is like a fairly common caveat with us. We watched usually the first episode or couple of episodes where things are still pretty rough. And at this point, they didn't even know that they were going to get picked up for more seasons. So this was probably as bad as it gets. Arguably, once they get towards the end of their run, it could get a little rough too once they kind of ran out of material. But yeah, definitely check this out. Find it.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for the OG Transformers. We got a lot more Transformers coming up later this month. We will talk about in a bit. But before that, Sean, buddy, what are you up to the next couple of weeks?
Hey, everybody. As always, I do live improv comedy in the District of Columbia. You can find dates and times and schedules. They are all available at Washington Improv Theater, and that is at witdc.org. I am producing a improv comedy festival that is going to happen in DC later this year in the November timeframe. It's called the District Improv Festival, and you can find out more information. We haven't posted tickets yet, but you can find out more information. You can read about it. We're also a 501c3 charitable donation, so if you want to donate to us, wonderful, and support the arts and live comedy in the DC area. And you can find out information at districtimprov.org. And as always, I'm going to be on the grams and the turs. Yep. At Sean Paul Ellis.
We're going to have all that information up on our website, so don't worry about jotting all that down. We'll have all the dates, links, all the contact information for you. Nothing to be concerned about.
Dave, what's good with you?
What's good, bro?
What's good with you?
Does that mean like where
what are you
can
up to?
Find me? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
What are you up to?
So on Twitter, you can find me at Dr. Claw MD. You can also find my handiwork over at Collider and Nerdist. And if you're interested in my short fiction, you can head on over to davecrumbore.com to check that out. If you're interested in finding out more about Saturday morning cartoons, you can do so at our website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Remember, that's morning with a U. And anybody watching on our video feed right now can see that U right up there. You can also find us on Twitter at MorningTunes. Check out Sean's handiwork on our Instagram account. You guys have been fantastic on our Facebook page. We love seeing your messages, your likes, your comments. And speaking of our Facebook page, we did get a recent message from listener Van DeWitt. He says, I wanted to pop in and tell you how much I enjoy your podcast. It really helps me through my workday at the sign shop. Anywho, I wanted to tip you off to some of my fave cartoons from my youth that you may have missed or have yet to cover. Would love to hear what you have to say about Inhumanoids, The Littles,
Oh my God.
Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines,
Yes.
Chuck Norris Karate Commandos, and then Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So, Vanna, I replied to you on Facebook, and thank you so much for your message. I'm glad you're loving listening to the podcast, and we're glad we can help your day go by a little bit quicker, a little bit more entertaining. But yeah, Sean clearly reacted to some of those, so they're all on our list.
Inhumanoids,
We
yes.
just have to get to them. So thank you so much for that. And honestly, listeners out there, if you have cartoons from your childhood, they might not be the same that Sean and I have, or they might be stuff that we've missed or forgotten about. So feel free to let us know through Facebook, on our YouTube accounts, through email, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. And if you just want to listen, you can do so through YouTube or through iTunes, Stitcher, and now we're on
Google Play.
so you can actually check us out there too. And we're working on getting Spotify together. There's some weird for them, so we're working on that. But
all these new services trying to get on this podcast bandwagon.
Yeah,
taking them time to get the process in
2
place.
years into it, we're trying to get
2 years.
trying to get it to you guys. So yeah, if you're out there and you're listening, we love hearing from you. So please just let us know at any of the above mentioned contact points. That's going to do it for this episode. Sean, do you have any specifics on the Transformers series we're going to be bringing up in the next couple of weeks? We're definitely going to be covering Combiner Wars once that's out and available to everybody. We're going to have a review, see if we can have some special stuff from that as well, since it's a brand new thing coming up. But
right.
And we are also going to be reposting, like we mentioned earlier, our Beast Wars review and episode. So you can either skip that completely if you're frustrated like we were, or you can enjoy it with us. Either one.
God. Yeah, no, we are going to be doing an entire month of Transformers. And so we have been culling through and looking at some of these different series. And so we are definitely going to have more Transformers coming up for the next couple weeks. So it's going to get really exciting. And I'm very excited to check out Combiner Wars as well. Again, I know that we've been kind of getting into some of these newer series, but we've got 5 weeks in August, and we definitely have more than 5 Transformers series to actually be able to get into. So this should be interesting. Yeah. This will be a little bit of a trip down memory road, and it'll be also kind of nice, as we mentioned, we're checking out the OG tonight to see how some of these stories evolve and how some of these characters change a little bit.
Yeah, we'll find some new stuff too, because I definitely haven't watched all of these for sure. I mean, this was the first time I've revisited this series in years upon years. So this is fun.
Yeah.
But if you guys are out there and you have favorite episodes or favorite series, definitely drop us a line, let us know. We'll see if we can work it into the schedule. Anything else from you tonight, Sean?
No, I think we're
awesome.
good.
Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been Saturday Morning Cartoons, and we will see you next time.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.